Welcome to Larp Academia. Today we're going to go over how to pick your fighting style in Belegarth. Now there are a few different popular ones and ones to choose from. So if you like this content, you want to hear more, since we are planning to revisit a few other LARPs and talk about how to choose what you want to be when you get into them, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding this notification bell so that you can stay updated, and leave a comment to tell us what you want to see next. Now, the first style that you have is Florentine. Florentine is, it's the rare one in Belegarth for sure. The reason being is that if an arrow comes at me, I die. If I fight on a line, period, well, then I am prey. I'm prey because I don't have this nice shield to block me from poles and spears and everything else. And if I even deflect a two-handed sword, well, even deflecting the tip with one hand, even if you deflect this area, you're gonna have to put enough force, enough body weight and pushing to get through with not having that much reach, so that it's going to leave you exposed. It's not great, and the only real option for Florentine is to kind of be on the side, since shield men are much better in a line. Now, if you do want to do Florentine, which is like two-weapon fighting, then you have to be very quick, able to dodge, and very, very aware of where the archers are, because you are going to be prey number one to be picked off by them. If you think that you are able to dodge archers, and you're able to be that person who will go just pick things off, just really annoy people, and you really want two weapons and will take the time to get coordinated, because it's not like in the video games or shows or TVs where people just fight easily with two-handed weapons. No. Usually, if I have one weapon right now, I'm at a disadvantage to this. I know it sounds strange, but it takes a lot of time and practice to be able to wield two weapons. And in Belegarth, honestly, you're more of a soldier than a one-on-one fighter. You fight with your group, you fight with your unit as a cohesive fighting force. So Florentine just is not that good of an option. But if you're really willing to take the time to get skilled, to be dedicated, to be a lone wolf kind of, then yeah, Florentine is good for you as long as you're fine with being in melee range. Now, the other close combat option that you really have in Belegarth, the real close combat option, is sword and board. Sword and board is for when you want to be very defensive, help your team out, be aware, just help protect people, and also be able to close in on the distance and strike. Because if you're able to close in, then you're able to defeat pulls, you're able to defeat two-handed weapon users, because one shot, boom, and then you just kill them. You're able to block against arrows. I mean, shields are amazing. You don't need to go through some wonky things just like, well, you might need to be on the sidelines and get super skilled. No. A shield is the general basic if you want to go melee. The reasons for this are, well, it's simple. All I need to do is be able to hold my shield up here. I might even get a little kite shield to protect my legs, which is something very nice, since we can't regain wounds in Belegarth. While with a Florentine fighter, you would be up here trying to block, someone hits you in your legs, or you have these two little thin sticks to block everything. Well, a shield it makes your life much easier. It makes it so that you can survive, and it takes two hits from a very heavy weapon that we went over in our two-handed weapon tips that most people just baseball swing up, and usually it's easy to stop. You can try to go in and just murder them. You can step back. I mean, a third technical option is to deflect the tip of that two-handed sword, which I would not recommend for new players especially. But if you want a style that is more motionally aggressive, like I have to move up to get to you, or more footwork aggressive, a style that is more defensive and a closer combat style that really fits the bill, where your skill really amps it up and gives you a good chance to survive, then I would suggest having sword and board as your preferred style. Now, for those who want to be a little bit further and aren't as concerned about their own personal defense and still be working with a team, but those who want to get their aggression out, are the two-handed sword users. Now, the two-handed sword users are there to primarily bust shields. It goes in a simple triangle. You have your shields counter spears slash bows. Bows counter two-handed sword users. Two-handed sword users counter sword and board, and everyone counters Florentine because Florentine's just kind of easy to counter on the line. Now, two-handed sword users, you don't have the range of other people. You have like mid-range sort of, but you are there primarily to bust shields. That is your main goal. And if there are no other spears or long two-handed weapons, your two-handed sword can also become the sort of like a pole at times, more aggressive than a spear for sure. But your two-handed sword is for people who want to be not quite in the thick of it coming close, but those who still want to do some whirling using their body and still be a little bit close to the enemy, but are able to step back, be okay, and work with their team. If this is not for you, then you can go with spears. There are technically war poles, but I mean, if you're doing that, it's not really it's more of a style of, I'm just gonna bash things and swing and hope my teammates protect me because I'm not that good. However, spears, well, I'm not that personally good to clarify. Spears are the weapons where you want to maintain a distance, you want to cause damage, and you want to help your team, but you don't like getting close. Even getting this close is just, no. But yes, even this far, just, I mean, it's still a little bit much. I still want to be a little bit further back. This is when I want to strategically support my team, when I'm trying to make decisions on where I'm trying to make sure people's attentions are focused, if I can snipe to kill people, etc. You're more of a calculating, a little bit longer than mid-range fighter for sure, but you're more calculating and more support with your team. And if you're fine with that role, that's great. If you're fine with everyone hating you because spears are so annoying to deal with, then a spear might be a good option for you. Now, the last option that we have for you, the ultimate range, if you don't want to get in any melee whatsoever, is bow. Now, bow is, first of all, for those who have money. Arrows are not cheap. Bows are not cheap. Well, okay, this one was. But most bows are not cheap. Most good bows are not cheap. It'll be hard to find someone who makes a good, like $30 PVC bow that works. It's very hard for that. This one I think was even like 50 or 60. But you'll get usually more expensive bows. Every arrow will cost anywhere between, if you get it cheap, like good cheap, then $13 to probably, I've even heard $30 per arrow. It's quite a bit. So if you're willing to spend a lot of money, then archery might become an option. Now, the first caveat, if you have that much money, is to have the mentality where I don't want to get up close and fight. I don't want to be in the thick of melee. This is for those people who, yes, I could have the range of a spear to poke, but I don't really want to have that chance of dying as easily. And I kind of want to support my teammates. I want to be more surgical in my strikes. Well, a spear can either choose between ABP or just trying to choose when to stab and when to kill. A bow doesn't really have that option. You can make it obvious and just, slow draw up and down to make them pay attention to you. But even then, I mean, that's not what you're there to do. You're there to try to pick and shoot the person. Instead of this slow, obvious draw, you might want to go here and just shoot in order to try to get someone from back further in the line or anything else. You might want to pick someone up from the sides. You want to be moving. You want to be very, very precise, and you'll have to be aggressive because you are taking someone out of the line by being a bowman. You are someone who has to constantly be a threat and be sniping and possibly be killing if possible. You also have to be wary to dodge arrows or watch the entire battlefield, since you are not only trying to change the entire battlefield, but you're also seeing if people are trying to kill you as well. If someone's going to try to flank and come behind, you're that person who watches them, who also calls out to your team. And while you are a bit of a support, you are also extraordinarily aggressive. So a bow user is for those who don't want to get in melee, have money, and want to constantly be doing something while in a different capacity from your normal melee. Now, adding throwies or rocks or things like that or javelins are a complete personal choice. If you feel like you want to have some extra oomph and some range or some tricks or whatever else, you can add that to your arsenal. It's kind of the same with armor, but those aren't really the typical fighting styles. The 4 typical fighting styles are, once again, less so Florentine, sword and board, two-handed weapons, and bow. Bow and Florentine, a little bit less, mainly because bow is so costly. Florentine because it's so defenseless, and sword and board along with two-handed weapons are really the more common ones that you'll find. The most common is sword and board, just due to the skill that you can have with it, and that it has also such a wide capability and is so easy to get. While spears and two-handed weapons are easier to get, they also need that support of shieldmen. They need more shieldmen in order to work. At least kind of like 2 shieldmen to 1 two-handed weapon user, etc. So that they can block both sides and that two-handed weapon user can attack, and to extend that line. And the reason, again, why I say shields are a bit more skill-based is, or can be a bit more skill-based, is because we went over how it's easy to lean on just swinging or just poking and just not trying to improve on two-handed weapons, and people get used to that. With sword and board, you kind of need to make sure that you are able to pay attention to the entire field, and a single short sword is generally able to have a much higher skill cap. That doesn't mean that it's better, it just means that it has a higher skill cap of all the things that you can do, all the footwork, because again, fighting up here, up this close, allows more options, especially with a shorter sword. You can move around, you can do everything else, and it does have a high skill cap and skill options for you to use. Once again, does that mean it's better? No, don't get pretentious out there, sword and board users, and saying like, well, I'm a sword and board user, unlike you two-handed weapon users. Oh, you poor skillless noobs. No. You are just choosing your own option. And honestly, sword and board doesn't feel the best sometimes on the line. So take these into considerations. They all have their own strengths, they all have their own weaknesses, but it's more to fit your play style of what you want to do. If you want to be that aggressive person, if you want to be up close, if you want to be mid-range, if you want to be that skulking person in the shadows, if you want to be the one that tries to survey the field and support it and also change the entire field with your surgical strikes, then you have an idea of what fighting style you would prefer. Now with this, I hope that I helped you choose what fighting style you would prefer in Belegarth. If you're new, if you're really curious about yourselves, definitely try it out. There are, again, weirder fighting styles like a sword and shield and flail. Strange, but you can still try out things and have fun. I would love to hear what your favorite fighting style is in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell so that you can stay informed. Until next time, keep LARPing.